Welcome back to Broadcast Brains at SMPTE17. Now we're with Dan and Ozzie from Avid. We want to cover off Pro Tools' latest release of 12.8 and its interoperability with ISIS, plus some other cool new features such as the Dolby Atmos integration. So, Daniel.
Yes.
Tell us some more about 12.8 and what's really exciting you about it.
So, in 12.8, we've done some interesting things. One of those is the Pro Tools First. The free entry level into Pro Tools is now compatible with Pro Tools in the cloud. So if you have got a full version of Pro Tools and you want to invite a friend to collaborate with you, you can do that with the free version of Pro Tools as well. So that's one thing that we've done. Another thing that we've done is we've done some improvements to the workspace. So if you're a sound designer or someone doing some music work, it's now easier than it was before to use the workspace to get things in and out of Pro Tools efficiently. What we're talking about here, which is fairly big news, is some really great improvements to the compatibility with our storage, the Nexus storage and Pro Tools. So some basic things there is, for the first time ever, we actually qualify 10 gig connections into Pro Tools. So if you're opening large sessions and working in a collaborative environment between editors or multiple audio suites, you can now get the information in and out of Pro Tools using that storage much more quickly than before. We've done a lot of improvements there. And the other major thing, of course, is the Dolby integration into 12.8. So they're really the big major features that we've released in 12.8.
Cool. So maybe, Ozzie, you can show us a little bit more about some of the Dolby Atmos integration.
Sure, not a problem at all. I mean, it's a very big deal for us at Avid. We're really happy that the partnership with Dolby has been announced, really, with Pro Tools 12.8. And there's a lot of key workflows that we've improved with the Dolby Atmos features in Pro Tools 12.8. And I could show you guys a couple of these things here inside of Pro Tools now. If you go under your setup menu and go to peripherals, we now have a Dolby Atmos tab, so you can enable this and connect to an RMU host, which can be a Dolby Atmos, a Dolby RMU, or the Dolby Production Suite, which is available on our marketplace from Dolby, and you can enable that and then start working in Dolby Atmos. We also have 702 and 712 busing inside of Pro Tools, but the biggest thing is that you no longer need a plugin to handle the Dolby Atmos workflow. The panner and the metadata is now built into Pro Tools, and you have full control over those parameters inside of Pro Tools for your objects. You can make those mono or stereo objects, and you have full control over the pan parameters for that inside of Pro Tools, your height, center position, front, rear, all the things that you need to do Dolby Atmos mixing, which has become a very popular demand now for a lot of our television, film, and even music clients are wanting to explore this immersive format and work in Dolby Atmos in Pro Tools 12.8.
Great. Now, Ozzie, with what we have shown here on the system, normally you'd be working with the S6 and the big consoles.
Yes.
What we have here with the S3 and now with the Pro Tools dock,
yes.
How many of those features can we actually use in this system?
You can actually get to a lot of those features right here on the dock on that same track that has the 9.0, the 9.0 or 712 if you want to call it here, which is what it's called. You have all those parameters here on the dock. So if you want to get to size and height and the different modes and your front and rear pan, it's all here. You can also do it from the touch screen from right here, and it's all enabling and happening inside of Pro Tools at the same time. And even on the S3, you get all those parameters to show up across the S3 and control all that. So it's universal across the board that we allow our users to use an S3 and a dock or use an S6, and it's a consistent workflow around for everyone.
Exactly, like all the color coding that we use for our different kinds of controls is the same all the way through from the free Pro Tools control application on iPad is reflected on the S6, it's reflected on the dock, and that makes it really easy to go between an S6 and an S3. And in fact, Hacksaw Ridge, a lot of the premixing was actually done on an S3. So yeah, it's a highly capable unit, even though it is compact.
The beauty of having Atmos built into Pro Tools 12.8 now is that from an editorial standpoint, right up to premix, to final mix, to delivery, can all be handled within the entire environment, and that's why we're really excited about having Atmos built into Pro Tools 12.8.
And obviously with the Nexus connectivity and being able to run these big sessions, this is going to be a massive benefit for the big producers, if you like.
For all users, I mean, this whole workflow efficiency, you know, the turnaround times for production now is just getting more and more difficult all the time, and to be able to share the same storage as your editorial department, bring those things into Pro Tools and open them easily and transfer them between rooms, bring in new information when as soon as the editorial department's finished it, is a huge part of what we do to make that workflow efficient. Without that, people just simply wouldn't make their timelines, you know. They wouldn't be able to get things out for their releases in time. Again, it works all the way through. Some important improvements that we've made, actually, for the Nexus in particular, is there's some new settings in Pro Tools. One of them is that we allow you to keep a local waveform cache, because actually opening waveform caches from servers is actually quite a time-consuming thing, because there are lots of little files. We actually allow you to keep a local cache up to 99 sessions. So once you've opened it, that session is going to open much, much faster. That's just in this setting here. Another setting that we have now is actually parallel task optimization. This allows the Pro Tools to save some CPU cycles for copying those files from your storage. A really quick guide: off is when you're using local storage, low is when you're using a 1 gig connection, medium is for dual 1 gig connections, and the high is when you've got those 10 gig connections to your storage. So that leaves some cycles free, as I say, to allow that copying to happen as quickly as your machine is able to do it. The other thing that we've done is in the disk cache, we now test out to 64 gig in the disk cache. So that means once you copy that audio off your local drive or the storage, it's working from essentially a RAM disk, so that your playback performance is really, really fast, and you're not interfering with the network's, you know, the network performance for your other clients on the server. So that's a nice efficiency change there. And also the disk cache filling speed is massively improved over previous versions of Pro Tools. So there's a lot of background stuff, background processes that have been improved to make that a lot more quick and efficient to open and close sessions.
And ultimately, really, this just benefits the audio guys because they can get their job done faster.
That's precisely it.
It's all about speed.
Yeah.
It's all about having that at their fingertips, and all about being able to get the job done, you know? Get it done in an efficient manner, too.
Just to put a number out there, some of the sessions, you know, getting up around 5 or 6 gig would sometimes take 3 or 4 minutes to open from a server. On a 10 gig connection, with that waveform cache, those sessions are now opening in 5 seconds. So it's a massive improvement on what we were previously able to do.
That's certainly a massive improvement in performance. And in a lot of our world where we have clients that are doing a lot of television and they're having to turn stuff around very quickly, wanting to be connected to the same storage to be able to very quickly mix to pictures, get it back to the edit suite. This is a massive time saver.
It's a massive time saver, and for the film world too, it's a big deal for us, you know, in the States, in Los Angeles, because, you know, now you have all your editorial on the same Nexus with you, cutting the picture along, and then at the same time, your guys are all together working on the entire project from an audio standpoint. It's just the ability there is just, and the time savings there is amazing.
And it's interesting talking to the guys as well, because it means you're using the same high quality pictures as the editorial department is, and you don't have to copy or move them. You can stream them directly from the server as well. And another thing that comes up as well is that also increases security. You've got less copies of the session or project in lots of locations. Instead, you'd bring it from the server. So it's actually a security thing as well, that you have limited copies of those sessions in a central location that someone can help manage.
Well, certainly, obviously, security is a really big issue at the moment after some of the things that have happened in the last...
few things have happened,
So certainly, for Hollywood especially, it's absolutely critical.
We have our issues sometimes.
Yes. And the first thing that probably the operators are always looking at on a day-to-day basis is speed and how quickly we can interface with editorial, because invariably editorial finishes at the release. It doesn't finish a month before. So
I mean, they're mixing up until just days before the releases in the recent workflows, and without being able to use Pro Tools, its offline bounce functionality, and mixing in the box in Pro Tools, they simply wouldn't meet these deadlines. So It's just all brings those things together, having the central storage, being able to go from editorial to mix, having the technology in Pro Tools now to bounce faster than real time to get your different stems and versions out, all just basically gives people more time to be creative and actually mix, because the tools are fast enough to allow them to do that.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks so much for being on Broadcast Brains today.
My pleasure.
It's been really great to see the improvement with 12.8 and the interoperability with Nexus.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for more. I think there's lots more good things to come.
Thank you.
Thanks.